I've trapped all of my friends in a well.
I've built a big house where the rooms of everyone in my family get locked when they die. Let's see how long they last.
I tried to bring a house to Seattle from Norway.
One of the children dies from eating a Feastable.
But in a really whimsical way. They become the Feastable.
So many possible worlds, but we got this one. So many possible worlds, but we got this one.
Welcome to the Worst of All Possible Worlds, the first and only podcast killed by a Feastable. I am the worst of all possible AJs.
And I'm the worst of all possible Brian's. Josh is out this week because he's crawling around in my ceiling like a little rat, skittering about and saying, ooh, me eatsies, some cheesies. Why is he doing that? I don't know.
Wait, hold on.
Please send us emails, DMs, Discord messages, and anything else that you can think of, preferably with like an envelope containing $5 to $10. And I'm sure if you do it enough times, he'll stop.
Actually, everybody just replied to Josh on Blue Sky, eats my cheese.
And you know what? I'm kind of playing Josh today, but you know, we've brought on some guests in order to make up for Josh, who actually are eating the cheesies. We have, you might remember our first guest from her appearance on our Silent Hill 2 episode. She's also the writer of video games. Her projects include Life is Strange, Double Exposure, and the upcoming Pathologic 3. Holy
Hell
shit.
Yeah.
She's also the host of the podcast All My Maidens, where she tries to get to the bottom of Elden Ring's lore. Please welcome Aysha U Farah back to the program. Hello, Aysha.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me again.
We needed an expert on video games, but we also needed an expert on short stories. So we have brought on one of our favorite people, one of the co-hosts of the great Socialist Shelf podcast. I'll show all three of us have been on, and one of us have been on 5 times. Aysha has her own bust now.
Yeah.
Please welcome Lenore. Hello, Lenore.
It is wonderful to be back. It is wonderful not to be stuffed in a bunk bed this time like the last time I was on here.
I was like, where are you recording from? I thought maybe you were in a closet, which was kind of true.
Yeah,
You were in a hostel. Yeah.
Yes. This was, Aysha, this was when I was in San Diego for SDCC.
Yeah.
When I was still working for the gacha game that I used to write for, that is just going out of service now. That's why I was there. Yeah, and I was stuffed under. I was stuffed in a bunk bed, still laboring under the delusion that I was a man.
Many such cases.
It was really lovely because it did genuinely look like you were in a prison.
Yeah.
And that was partially true because we were talking about Adventures in Odyssey, which is the greatest prison of them all.
We're all in the prison of our mind, of James Dobson's mind.
Well, speaking of being trapped in the prison of our own mind until we are inevitably released.
Wow.
Yes, this is a game called What Remains of Edith Finch, which is a game all about death and being released from the prison of our bodies.
You guys love to bring me on to talk about death.
Yeah.
I know. Well, you're very good at talking about it.
To be fair, we do like talking about death. Just in general, it happens a lot.
We're the Beetlejuice musical.
It happens to many people.
Are you telling me Laura Boebert jerked somebody off during your show? Is that the...
All the time.
Yeah, she wouldn't be the only one.
Have I talked about Handygate on the podcast yet? Have I talked about?
I think when someone got their cock jerked at Puffs by two people
I
at the same time.
Yeah, there was a throuple. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you told me this at like a restaurant.
Aysha, listen, I know you're about to eat, but I gotta tell you about this hand job that happened.
I still like to think, even though it was a stage play and they don't really serve concessions like this, I still like to think that he had like a big bucket of popcorn in his lap and they were just reaching into the popcorn bucket to jerk his cock off.
My dad once sat me down and was like, look, AJ, and again, like as most sex advice from my father, out of left field, we were talking about anything else. He's like, hey, you know what we should talk about now?
Did he talk about the popcorn bucket trick?
He was like, listen, AJ, you may think it's a good idea, but if you're gonna do it, don't put hot butter in there. Trust me. Because if you cut a hole in the bottom of the popcorn, it's gonna spill all over there.
I'm gonna be honest.
Yeah.
That seems like less of a problem than the popcorn.
Yeah.
You got kernels in there. You
gotta
know, the husks.
You gotta eat around it first.
Yeah, you gotta
So you can get
empty
to
the
it.
bucket.
Yeah.
This also seems like the sort of advice exclusively given by people who've experienced it. It's a very niche
Hi,
kind
Dad.
of...
Sorry for blowing your
I
spot.
don't think my dad has ever given me sex advice.
Ever.
I mean, like, I guess not that I can think of, at least not any advice like that.
So anyway, we are here today to talk about What Remains of Edith Finch, a game I played right when it came out and hadn't really played through since. It made a pretty remarkable impression on me back in the day. But what about y'all? Did y'all play this game before coming on the show? Was this something that you were familiar with in passing? Was it on like your bucket list of video games? How did it come into your life?
I actually played it for the first time only last year with the narrative team of Double Exposure.
Oh, cool.
For people who haven't played the game, there is a section towards the end of Double Exposure that is very experiential, and we were looking for sort of inspiration for that. So I think Edith Finch was literally like something we even that the leads brought up when they were like pitching this to Square Enix. I don't think we played all of it because there are some parts that I didn't remember when I replayed.
Well, I realized this time around, because playing it the second time, there was like a section I had remembered from the first time I played that I didn't play, and I was like, oh, you can skip shit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so you can skip most of it.
I think that's kind of an odd design decision, but yeah, I was like, there was a whole thing with the kite. Why didn't I have the kite? And then I was like, oh, I skipped the kite.
Yeah.
It was strange.
I had no idea you could skip anything.
Yeah, you can just sort of walk past some stuff.
Most things, actually. It's very fascinating that way. Like, there are some, like, barriers to progression, right? Like, you have to know how to wind the music box a certain way. But once you know that, you can skip pretty much all that first section.
Yeah, you can speedrun Edith Finch.
You can speedrun Edith Finch if you want to. They don't give you an achievement like they do in Gone Home, where you can speedrun it like under 1:30 and you get the achievement or whatever.
You can speedrun Gone Home in about 10 seconds.
Yeah.
Because it's just go through the door, open the fake wall, go inside.
All you have to do is go home. That's the point of the game.
Yeah.
Just turn it off.
But Lenore, what about you?
Yeah, no, this was on my to-do list for quite a while. This had been waiting around for me until just last week. I played it for the first time, let it sit for a few days, and then I actually played it again this morning. I beat it again about half an hour before we went to record.
Yeah, this game came out, what was it, 2017? That surprised me. I thought it came out earlier than that. It's just that 2017 is now a very long time ago. It was on the Switch, so I played it on the Switch, and I kind of regretted playing it on the Switch because they had to sacrifice a lot to make it work on that hardware. There's so much in this game that's about books on the walls and things on tables and stuff like that. I was able to get it again for the PlayStation, and I played it this time around with the nicer graphics and the bigger screen. It's kind of a walking simulator, but it has mini games. You know, it has these sections where you are doing something. And the whole reason that I had bought the game in the first place was, I think it was Mark Brown did a video, Game Maker's Toolkit, about the cannery section of the game.
Oh, sure.
And I was like, oh, damn, I want to play the kind of game that comes up with ideas like this. But it does kind of spoil you on the best idea, on the most complex gameplay, why everything else is much, much simpler. So I do remember, especially with the length of the game being quite short, I do remember feeling kind of disappointed the first time I played it.
The cannery game in particular, like, does it lose anything with the controller experience, do you find, as opposed to mouse and keyboard?
I was going to ask you the inverse of that, because the controller experience is phenomenal.
It's really cool,
Having the two sticks.
With that mini game, it uses one stick for one set of actions and one stick for another set of actions. And just going back to this idea of like the music box and everything else, they basically take their cues from David Cage games for how to interact with things.
Yeah, I was noticing that. When you have to like move, like pull up the window, I was like, oh, David Cage.
Get out of here.
Unfortunately, it works.
Well, you know, broken glass.
What they're doing is they do something clever enough where the controls are never all that precise. They never have a thing pop up on screen. They're like, do this action. Mm-hmm. If you're not someone who has played video games and you jump into Edith Finch, it would probably be a little too obscure for you to figure some of these things out. You know, for a normal, which is different than a lot of walking simulators, right? Just about anyone could just pick up Dear Esther and make their way through it.
Although I had a little trouble kind of figuring out what button I was supposed to press. I was playing it on the Steam Deck, docked to my TV with a PS5 controller. So I sort of like jerry-rigged the situation together. That's how I've been playing Baldur's Gate 3.
Okay.
I literally bought a Steam Deck because my computer is so fucked up I can't play games on it anymore.
Right.
I've been playing so much Baldur's Gate 3 that I was literally getting a crick in my neck from like looking at. I was like, my wife was like, "Why don't you buy the dock?"
Oh, is it sold separately?
Yeah. Yes.
Oh, that's bullshit.
Yes.
Okay.
I know. So I have just recreated gaming on your computer. I mean, on your TV. I could just be playing this on my PS5, but instead.
Yeah, I don't know if it's like this on Steam Deck, but playing it on PlayStation, and I don't remember for the Switch because that was, again, a long time ago. Donald Trump was president at that point.
I don't want to be alive anymore.
Well, good news. In this game,
we got a game for you.
Yeah.
In this game, you use the R2 button to interact. I'm kind of surprised it doesn't do the like flower thing where it's just like any button you press is good. You like have to press R2. And I don't know if that's just a PlayStation thing because they throw in a little bit of the feedback for one section of the game.
Well, it's better than
two sections.
Heavy Rain where you walk with R2
Yes.
and then you want to kill yourself the whole time you're playing the
It's
game.
not tank controls. It is not
tank controls.
Not a little
it's
race car,
first
man.
person. You press R to interact with something, and then if your hands have to do something like turn a page, turn a crank, a lot of turning, turn a doorknob, then you're using the right stick to do that, and then you use your left stick to move around, and then in normal context, use the right stick to turn. What is it like on PC, Lenore?
Yeah, as far as mouse and keyboard goes, right, there's some things that feel pretty natural, like the fish cannery, like mini game, right? The feeling of moving your mouse back and forth to behead the fish, that feels incredibly immersive.
Okay.
There's other parts of it, though, that feel a little bit floaty, like the interact is either spacebar in my experience or left click, and you want to use spacebar because spacebar just like does the thing. Left click, you kind of have to hold it, and sometimes it doesn't recognize when you've held it.
I'm trying to imagine playing this on the Switch.
Yeah, no, I mean...
With motion controls?
There were no motion controls. They could have done motion controls. I really remember being pretty unimpressed with the game the first time I played it.
We should probably give a little bit of context of where this game came from because... It is designed by a company called Giant Sparrow, which was founded on March 22nd, 2009 by Ian Dallas. And Dallas is a very interesting guy, right? He graduates from Yale undergrad with a film degree. He moves out to California in order to write for video games eventually, but he wants to get his start writing for TV. He's also a guy who really, really likes birds. And I have a quote here from an interview he did with Polygon back in 2012. And Aysha, would you mind reading this, actually?
The thing that fascinates me about birds is that they're the last bit of nature that's able to cohabitate with us, Dallas explains. At the same time, they're both familiar and a little terrifying. It's basically surrealism, the thing that's familiar to you, but also pretty crazy when you look at it a little closer. Though he claims not to be an expert, birds have essentially become his muse, something of an allegory in his vision for developing video games. I think that's a great thing for art to do, to really exaggerate all these differences, but also mirror real experiences in the real world. Girl, what are you talking about?
I have no idea.
I am so confused by this. What I extrapolate from this is he's saying like a caged bird isn't domestic in the way a cat or dog might be. You know, it's like it's a piece of nature still that you're like observing, but that's also true of like fish. So
there are a lot of animals.
I don't really know. This guy just likes birds, and I think he can't quite put it into words why he likes birds. He's a regular Oscar Hammerstein in that regard.
Yes.
Yeah, this whole quote just like has the vibe of a guy like shouting at you over music at a party with like a solo cup in one hand and a joint in the other, and he's like explaining birds to you.
The thing that fascinates me about birds is that they're the last bit of nature that's able to cohabitate with us. And then just like the 1,000-mile stare of the woman being lectured
You
at.
almost said Thousand Island stare. I saw it on your face.
Just covered in dressing. Dallas writes for sitcoms for a while. He bounced around writing for a couple of failed ones and also Drawn Together, which was...
Oh my God. There are a lot of actual very formative memories for me watching Drawn Together as a teenager. that we don't need to go into. But good for Bird Boy.
Good for Bird Boy. He also wrote for Spaceballs, the animated series.
No!
And I love...
No!
Yes.
Oh my God! No!
Listeners, Brian just fully did like
Whoa.
the Jesus Christ.
Whoa.
With his arms.
Yeah, what happened? Was this a formative show for you?
It was not formative. It's just that I'm the only one who knows it exists.
Not
It's one of
anymore.
the worst pieces of shit that's ever been made. No, I had this like horrible little idea that floated into my head, and I made a Blue Sky post about it like a month ago that was like, I storm into a boardroom and write Andor for Spaceballs on the whiteboard until everyone either beats me to death or I get to make the second worst TV show of all time, because the actual worst TV show is the Spaceballs show that is real, that was made. And then Mel Brooks just announced Spaceballs 2, so we're getting more of that shit just shoved down our gullet.
Spaceballs is in the Spaceballs is in the air.
It truly is 2016 again.
Do any of you know anything about the Spaceballs show?
No.
Nothing, except for what I researched for this. No,
So
I've never seen
it. It was produced by G4.
Oh,
G4 TV,
What?
and it's all fucking Newgrounds Flash animation. So this was supposed to pair up with like the TV broadcasts of Happy Tree Friends and Code Monkeys as part of an animation block. And it is so
shit.
utterly ass. It's amazing.
So Dallas wrote the episode that was like riffing on Tron, I guess. It was just like
Great.
did the exact
Yeah.
same thing as Tron. And he got a note back from Mel Brooks himself that asked him to make it more, quote, like Grand Theft Auto.
So wait, does Barf invite you into the Winnebago for hot coffee?
Does he maybe just put the N-word in it more? Like,
There's two possibilities here, right? Either Mel Brooks has no idea what Grand Theft Auto is, or Mel Brooks knows exactly what Grand Theft Auto is and has played it.
He knows what Grand Theft Auto is, but he doesn't know what any other video game is.
there was an era where put Grand Theft Auto in it was like the design ask. Like, it's the reason that so many games that's like the first game is kind of whimsical and then like the sequels are like edgy, like Prince of Persia. The Jack games, Jack and Daxter becoming like edgy, which I think is the only time that was ever successful. It was the Jack games. But there's literally like the guys who made those games were like, oh yeah, kids don't want Mario anymore. They want Grand Theft Auto. So that was like a huge thing. Make it more Grand Theft Auto.
But eventually Dallas grows really tired of writing for sitcoms.
Yeah.
He was only a writer's assistant, and he said he looked around the room and said that he didn't want anyone else's job. So he was like, I need to get the fuck out of here. So he goes back to school. He goes to USC to get his MFA in interactive media. And it's at USC that he builds a prototype for what would eventually become the Unfinished Swan. And this prototype was basically, you're in a white room, the player hits a button, throws a paintball at the wall, and it splatters out, and that's how you reveal the geometry of the level. So you're able to walk around and like build your world basically around you.
Clever.
When was this?
This was in 2008, when of course there were still jobs available in the video game industry.
But
and
nowhere
everyone was
else, because it was 2008.
Oh, that's so true.
Those are the only jobs left.
So basically, he submits the prototype to the Tokyo Game Show.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And this catches the attention of Sony and several other developers, but Sony signs with him there on the spot a 3-game contract. They have right of first refusal for the next 3 games.
Well, if there's one thing Sony is really good at, it's following through on their franchises, their IPs, their licenses.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm staring wistfully at my Bloodborne tattoo.
This is so also like 20 years ago in that you could just get money for like anything, for like a prototype where you throw paint at the wall.
Well, this is an interesting point for like independent game development too, and it's interesting that Sony is the one moving in on this, because I feel like Microsoft was leading the charge, right? There was this whole like, buy independent games on your Xbox 360 that launched a whole lot of careers.
Well, that's the play now. That's the thing now. It's like we were actually talking about this like a few days ago, like in the me, Lenore, and AJ. Like it's cool that there's so many indie games now, and so many indie games hit it huge. Like I'm thinking like Blueprints, like was huge this year. Like Eternal Strands, I think was pretty big. I haven't tried it yet. Even Clair Obscur. But this is like both a good thing and a bad thing because it makes it very hard to have a video game career, right? Because the studios are not hiring people full time in jobs that can feed your family. Instead, they're waiting for people to make a game on their own and then swooping in at the last minute and giving you money to finish the game and then taking like half the profits for like doing no work.
This is where something like Annapurna comes in, which is basically started as a vanity endeavor, right? You have a billionaire's daughter.
Her name is Annapurna.
Her name is, Annapurna, daughter of Greg Perna.
Yeah.
So Megan Ellison is the founder of Annapurna. Her dad founded Oracle. And she started off with Annapurna Pictures, which produced a lot of movies. She was a co-producer on like True Grit. I think that was one of the first really big things for her specifically. Then she was like, I'm going to branch into video games now. And picked up Edith Finch and Gorogoa. And again, these are two projects that are near completion.
Right.
And so she's working as the publisher. Annapurna is the publisher of these things. And then these go out in 2017. Another smart thing that Annapurna Interactive does is they do ports. So they take one of the original, like, small developer indie games that just completely catches fire, the game Flower, which I think used to be like a PlayStation exclusive. I think that was another Sony contract.
You could play it in Astrobot, so it must be.
Yeah, okay. So then Annapurna ends up porting that to PC and consoles and things like that. And Gone Home as well does like the Switch port for Gone Home. So that's kind of been the Annapurna model is you're producing independent games. You're also taking hit indie games from a little while ago and bringing them over to some new hardware.
Right.
It's a good business model. And there's some other stuff we can't really get into at this point in time where Megan Ellison just sort of disappears in 2020 and doesn't reemerge until sometime late in 2021. And it's just kind of a ghost studio. But yeah.
Yeah, didn't Annapurna's staff like mass quit a couple like a year ago or something?
Yeah, there's been some really, really strange stuff that would be worth talking about at some point, but is maybe a little outside of the range of Edith Finch. But it's been weird over there, unlike the rest of the video game industry, which has been operating very, very normally.
Very normally.
It's so normal out there.
Remember back in 2008 when people were joking it was recession-proof?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's the thing is in 2008, it was, right? You know, Dallas gets that 3-game contract and he starts it out with The Unfinished Swan, which comes out in 2012.
Yep. It does get finished.
It does get finished. Has anyone else played Unfinished Swan?
No.
Is it just me?
Mm-mm.
Okay. It is a really great kids game, is what I will say.
Okay.
Is that like, if you want to introduce somebody to the concept of video games, like, you know, one of your kids, perfect game to do that with. It's like, it slowly introduces mechanics. It's very whimsical. It has the tone of a fairy tale, but like one that's smart enough to like have deeper themes to it. So it's like, it feels like a lot of fun. And it also has a connection to Edith Finch that drives me insane, and we will get to that later. It also has Terry Gilliam voicing the king in it. And only a few days ago, Terry Gilliam came out and said that he was very grateful for Trump because we could finally laugh again.
Maybe Trump can finally get Terry Gilliam to make a second good movie.
Yeah, we can finally laugh again. That's so true. You so right, King. Yeah, it is super normal out there right now in games. Like, I don't know. I feel like I might have showed AJ this, but I got this rejection from a company that blew up. Can I just read something?
Yeah, this is wild.
Yes.
Yeah, no,
Okay.
this is definitely worth it.
Thanks again for stepping into the game and applying to our creative writer role. We appreciate the time and effort you spent in preparing your application. We've reviewed your application and are sorry to inform you that we will not proceed. This decision was as challenging as the toughest game level, as we had to consider many relevant candidates. Although this quest didn't result in a win, we hope you'll consider applying for future roles that align with your experience, skills, and personality. Once again, thank you for showing an interest in joining our team. Keep gaming and good luck in your future quests.
That line, this was as tough as a game level.
Yeah.
That's AI.
That's ChatGPT. Yeah.
It is so embarrassing because this was the first level, right? I didn't test. I didn't do an interview. So this was sent out to literally hundreds of people.
Jesus
and
Christ.
It's so embarrassing.
So his second game that is part of this 3-game contract with Sony doesn't come out for another 5 years. Okay. And by that point, it is transferred studios from Santa Monica Studios over to the publisher of Annapurna Interactive, right? And this game goes through a lot of variations. It starts out as a scuba diving simulator set off the coast of Washington, which is based on where Dallas grew up.
Getting warmer.
Unironically, a very good sign, right? Like, this is always like a good sign when you hear, oh, this game started out as a totally fucking different thing. Because you can tell people's brains are actually working as they're making this thing.
Yes, and they hit a wall pretty quickly, which is, how do you tell a story while scuba diving? Like, what is the story there? But by that point,
that's a little weird to me. Again, it's like the bird comment. It's like, you can tell a story while scuba diving. A very famous video game has done this recently.
You don't actually have to record the dialogue underwater.
Yeah.
Like, you can, but
no, that wouldn't be realistic enough. So by this point, they had already built the text floating in front of you, because it was going to be text that was floating in the water, right? So they had that asset. They also had a shark asset. And Dallas had been thinking about this shark asset for a long time. And one night he went home and had a dream about a shark falling in the forest. And the phrase, and suddenly I was a shark. And that was the main building block for what would eventually become What Remains of Edith Finch. That is actually in the final story. The entire process began by shaping Molly's story.
Yeah.
So What Remains of Edith Finch comes out on April 25th, 2017. And it is like universal praise is immediately heaped on this thing.
Yeah,
right?
I just remember... Yeah, it was like a frenzy. This is part of why I was kind of disappointed with it. It was just like impossible expectations built up for this thing.
It's interesting too, like to see all the DNA of all the stuff that's come before, right? We had covered Gone Home in one of the very first episodes of this podcast.
Yeah.
Before I knew what I was doing, but this game has a lot of that DNA in it, and I knew I always wanted to talk about it because it does sort of feel like a natural evolution away from Gone Home, because initially this was supposed to be a horror game, right? You're supposed to be wandering around this house in the dark with a flashlight, but they quickly veer away from that.
It still has those beats.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
There are still like doors that you open, and suddenly you're in an environment that's, for a variety of reasons, right? A lot of this game revolves around going through like tunnels and stuff, but like you open it up and you're like in a dark room, or you're in a like secret attic or whatever, and it's like, okay, like this is somewhere where you could be pursued by something, or you could hear something that's unsettling.
it feels less like a horror game than Gone Home does, for sure.
Yeah.
Yes.
Gone Home has the whole like dark, stormy night. There's always early on, there's this threat of like, maybe this becomes that. Maybe there is like, it leaves that open for like murder or whatever. And I mean, there is some murder here in Edith Finch.
Yes.
But
I think the voiceover sort of kills the feeling of a horror story, because like she's clearly not freaked out.
Yeah.
She's just a little bit thoughtful. Gone Home you don't hear from the main character in Gone Home, do you? She doesn't speak.
You hear a voicemail that she leaves.
Yeah, there's like one or two little files, but that's about it. I think there are a couple. No, there's like a couple little like you open something and she says like one or two words.
Right.
And it's like, oh, gross.
But it's mostly you're mostly you're hearing from your sister.
Porn or something. Yeah.
Oh, gross, dad, or something like that.
Yeah.
Here, you have this narration right from the start. It's not horror story narration. It's like a storybook.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
You're seeing the title of the game on a black void. We have kind of a visual continuity there with the unfinished swan.
Yes.
And it's bobbing up and down ever so slightly. And then you realize it's bobbing up and down because those titles exist in space. And you are on a boat heading out to an island. And who you are at the very beginning of the game is different than who you are for most of the game, because most of the game you are Edith Finch.
It also opens with bizarrely upbeat organ music, which is like a Bach cantata.
Yeah. I was kind of hoping for more organ throughout the game, because I think that's such a good
I'm
tone.
always hoping for more organ.
Classic AJ.
Yeah, this is Cantata 29. We thank thee, God, we thank thee.
Also, more fucking Pacific Northwest.
Why don't we do one that's set in Arkansas? Why don't we go there sometime?
Yeah, game designers who have jobs right now, go make a game about Arkansas, for Christ's sake.
At least this guy is from the Pacific Northwest.
Yeah.
Like David Cage, Sam Lake, Swery.
We got to go to the wasteland just outside of town of Tacoma, Washington.
But that's because those guys are all, they got a disease from watching Twin Peaks once.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, everything that is cool or interesting happens in Washington State.
A lot of this isn't going to make sense to you, and I'm sorry about that. I'm just going to start at the beginning, with the house. I lived here until I was 11, but I wasn't allowed inside half the rooms. Inside the mailbox were bills from 7 years ago, marked urgent, open immediately. I hadn't been back since my brother Lewis's funeral. In her will, my mother left me a key, but didn't tell me what it unlocked. Maybe she thought I'd know. Or she thought that the mystery would be enough to bring me back. The truth is, even after I inherited the house, I never thought I'd come back to it. But now I had questions about my family that only the house knew the answers to. The house was exactly like I remembered it, the way I'd been dreaming about it. As a child, the house made me uncomfortable in a way I couldn't put into words. Now, as a 17-year-old, I knew exactly what those words were. I was afraid of the house.
Hey there, you are listening to a preview of a premium episode of The Worst of All Possible Worlds. If you'd like to listen to the rest of this, head on over to our Patreon. That's patreon.com/worstofall. And you can listen to not only the rest of this episode, but our entire backlog of premium episodes, bonus episodes, and if you subscribe at the $10 tier, you will get an extra episode of the podcast every single month. Again, that is patreon.com/worstofall. Hope to see you there.